Essence in quotes. Dale Carnegie. How to win friends and influence people. It isn't what you have or who you are or where you are or what you are doing that makes you happy or unhappy. It is what you think about it. Don't be afraid of enemies who attack you. Be afraid of the friends who flatter you. You can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get other people interested in you. Any fool can criticize, complain, and condemn, and most fools do. But it takes character and self-control to be understanding and forgiving. When dealing with people, remember you are not dealing with creatures of logic, but with creatures bristling with prejudice and motivated by pride and vanity. Everybody in the world is seeking happiness, and there is one sure way to find it. That is by controlling your thoughts. Happiness doesn't depend on outward conditions. It depends on inner conditions. Talk to someone about themselves and they'll listen for hours. Actions speak louder than words, and a smile says, "I like you. You make me happy. I am glad to see you." A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. You can't win an argument. You can't, because if you lose it, you lose it, and if you win it, you lose it. The difference between appreciation and flattery? That is simple. One is sincere and the other insincere. One comes from the heart out, the other from the teeth out. One is unselfish, the other selfish. One is universally admired, the other universally condemned. To be interesting, be interested. Names are the sweetest and most important sound in any language. All men have fears, but the brave put down their fears and go forward, sometimes to death, but always to victory. Why talk about what we want? That is childish. Absurd. Of course, you are interested in what you want. You are eternally interested in it. But no one else is. The rest of us are just like you, we are interested in what we want. Criticism is dangerous, because it wounds a person's precious pride, hurt his sense of importance, and arouse resentment. Instead of condemning people, let us try to understand them. Let us try to figure out why they do what they do. That's a lot more profitable and intriguing than criticism, and it breeds sympathy, tolerance, and kindness. To know all is to forgive all. Once I did bad, and that I heard ever. Twice I did good, but that I heard never. Only knowledge that is used sticks in your mind. If you argue and rankle and contradict, you may achieve a victory sometimes, but it will be an empty victory because you will never get your opponent's goodwill. Winning friends begins with friendliness. The chronic kicker, even the most violent critic, will frequently soften and be subdued in the presence of a patient, sympathetic listener, a listener who will be silent while the irate fault-finder dilates like a king cobra and spews the poison out of his system. The world is full of people who are grabbing and self-seeking. So the rare individual who unselfishly tries to serve others has an enormous advantage. Control your temper. Remember, you can measure the size of a person by what makes him or her angry. We are interested in others when they are interested in us. If you tell me how you get your feeling of importance, I'll tell you what you are. Action seems to follow feeling, but really action and feeling go together, and by regulating the action, which is under the more direct control of the will, we can indirectly regulate the feeling, which is not. The only way I can get you to do anything is by giving you what you want. About 15% of one's financial success is due to one's technical knowledge, and about 85% is due to skill in human engineering, to personality and the ability to lead people. Buddha said, "Hatred is never ended by hatred but by love, and a misunderstanding is never ended by an argument but by tact, diplomacy, conciliation, and a sympathetic desire to see the other person's viewpoint." In a nutshell, fundamental techniques in handling people is: Principle 1. Don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Principle 2. Give honest and sincere appreciation. Principle 3. arouse in the other person an eager want. That is what every successful person loves, the game. The chance for self-expression. The chance to prove his or her worth, to excel, to win. I consider my ability to arouse enthusiasm among my people, said Schwab, the greatest asset I possess, and the way to develop the best that is in a person is by appreciation and encouragement. There is nothing else that so kills the ambitions of a person as criticisms from superiors. I shall pass this way but once, any good, therefore, that I can do or any kindness that I can show to any human being, let me do it now. Let me not defer nor neglect it, for I shall not pass this way again. The deepest principle in human nature is the craving to be appreciated. The reason why rivers and seas receive the homage of 100 mountain streams is that they keep below them. Thus they are able to reign over all the mountain streams. So the sage, wishing to be above men, putteth himself below them, wishing to be before them, he putteth himself behind them. Thus, though his place be above men, they do not feel his weight, though his place be before them, they do not count it an injury. Criticism is futile because it puts a person on the defensive and usually makes him strive to justify himself. Criticism is dangerous, because it wounds a person's precious pride, hurts his sense of importance, and arouses resentment. To win people to your way of thinking. Principle 1. The only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it. Principle 2. Show respect for the other person's opinions. Never say, "You wronged." Principle 3. If you are wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically. Principle 4. Begin in a friendly way. Principle 5. Get the other person saying yes, yes immediately. Principle 6. Let the other person do a great deal of the talking. Principle 7. Let the other person feel that the idea is their own. Principle 8. Try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view. Principle 9. Be sympathetic with the other person's ideas and desires. Principle 10. Appeal to the nobler motives. Principle 11. Dramatize your ideas. Principle 12. Throw down a challenge. The legendary French aviation pioneer and author Antoine de Saint-Exupéry wrote, "I have no right to say or do anything that diminishes a man in his own eyes. What matters is not what I think of him, but what he thinks of himself. Hurting a man and his dignity is a crime." By becoming interested in a cause, we are less likely to dislike the effect. Always avoid the acute angle. To change somebody's behavior, change the level of respect she receives by giving her a fine reputation to live up to. Act as though the trait you are trying to influence is already one of the person's outstanding characteristics. If you want enemies, excel your friends, but if you want friends, let your friends excel you. People who smile, he said, tend to manage, teach and sell more effectively, and to raise happier children. A great man shows his greatness, said Carlyle, by the way he treats little men. Remember that other people may be totally wrong. But they don't think so. Action springs out of what we fundamentally desire. Talk in terms of the other person's interests. In a nutshell, 6 ways to make people like you. Principle 1. Become genuinely interested in other people. Principle 2. Smile. Principle 3. Remember that a person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language. Principle 4. Be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves. Principle 5. Talk in terms of the other person's interests. Principle 6. Make the other person feel important and do it sincerely. The unvarnished truth is that almost all the people you meet feel themselves superior to you in some way, and a sure way to their hearts is to let them realize in some subtle way that you recognize their importance, and recognize it sincerely. If there is any one secret of success, said Henry Ford, It lies in the ability to get the other person's point of view and see things from that person's angle as well as from your own. If we are so contemptibly selfish that we can radiate a little happiness and pass on a bit of honest appreciation without trying to get something out of the other person in return, if our souls are no bigger than sour crab apples, we shall meet with the failure we so richly deserve. When a study was made a few years ago on runaway wives, what do you think was discovered to be the main reason wives ran away? It was lack of appreciation. Encouragement is a much more effective teaching device than punishment. Try leaving a friendly trail of little sparks of gratitude on your daily trips. You will be surprised how they will set small flames of friendship that will be rose beacons on your next visit. The person who has technical knowledge plus the ability to express ideas, to assume leadership, and to arouse enthusiasm among people, that person is headed for higher earning power. A man without a smiling face must not open a shop. To be genuinely interested in other people is a most important quality for a salesperson to possess, for any person, for that matter. The only way to influence people is to talk in terms of what the other person wants. Be wiser than other people if you can, but do not tell them so. Be sympathetic with the other person's ideas and desires. Welcome the disagreement. Remember the slogan, when two partners always agree, one of them is not necessary. As the Reader's Digest once said, many persons call a doctor when all they want is an audience. To be interesting, be interested. Ask questions that other persons will enjoy answering. Encourage them to talk about themselves and their accomplishments. Napoleon was criticized for giving toys to war-hardened veterans, and Napoleon replied, "Men are ruled by toys." The great aim of education, said Herbert Spencer, is not knowledge but action. If we want to make friends, let us put ourselves out to do things for other people, things that require time, energy, unselfishness and thoughtfulness. When we are not engaged in thinking about some definite problem, we usually spend about 95% of our time thinking about ourselves. Always make the other person feel important. Remember what Lincoln said, "A drop of honey catches more flies than a gallon of gall." You may be right, dead right, as you speed along in your argument, but as far as changing another's mind is concerned, you will probably be just as futile as if you were wrong. This is the day of dramatization. Merely stating a truth isn't enough. The truth has to be made vivid, interesting, dramatic. You have to use showmanship. The movies do it. Television does it. And you will have to do it if you want attention. Education, said Dr. John G. Hibben, former president of Princeton University, is the ability to meet life situations. Learning is an active process. We learn by doing. It is an interesting paradox that the more you surrender the credit for something you've done, the more memorable you become, and the more you actually end up receiving credit. Give honest and sincere appreciation. If you aspire to be a good conversationalist, be an attentive listener. To be interesting, be interested. Ask questions that other persons will enjoy answering. Encourage them to talk about themselves and their accomplishments. Be liberal with your encouragement, make the thing seem easy to do, let the other person know that you have faith in his ability to do it, that he has an undeveloped flair for it and he will practice until the dawn comes in the window, in order to excel. One thing only I know, and that is that I know nothing. Roosevelt knew, as all leaders know, that the royal road to a person's heart is to talk about the things he or she treasures most. I judge people by their own principles, not by my own. There's magic, positive magic, in such phrases as, "I may be wrong. I frequently am." Let's examine the facts. Remember that the people you are talking to are 100 times more interested in themselves and their wants and problems than they are in you and your problems. We nourish the bodies of our children and friends and employees, but how seldom do we nourish their self-esteem? We provide them with roast beef and potatoes to build energy, but we neglect to give them kind words of appreciation that would sing in their memories for years like the music of the morning stars. Very important people have told me that they prefer good listeners to good talkers, but the ability to listen seems rarer than almost any other good trait. 3/4 of the people you will ever meet are hungering and thirsting for sympathy. Give it to them, and they will love you. Become genuinely interested in other people. Over 300 years ago Galileo said, "You cannot teach a man anything, you can only help him to find it within himself." Action seems to follow feeling, but really action and feeling go together, and by regulating the action, which is under the more direct control of the will, we can indirectly regulate the feeling, which is not. Once you take the time to consider the other person's perspective, you will become sympathetic to his feelings and ideas. You will be able to authentically and honestly say, "I don't blame you for feeling as you do. If I were in your position, I would feel just as you do." The deepest principle in human nature is the craving to be appreciated. J. Pierpont Morgan observed that a person usually has two reasons for doing a thing, one that sounds good and a real one. The person himself will think of the real reason. You don't need to emphasize that. But all of us, being idealists at heart, like to think of motives that sound good. So, in order to change people, appeal to the nobler motives. Isaac F. Marcusson, a journalist who interviewed hundreds of celebrities, declared that many people fail to make a favorable impression because they don't listen attentively. Compared with what we ought to be, we are only half awake. We are making use of only a small part of our physical and mental resources. Stating the thing broadly, the human individual thus lives far within his limits. He possesses powers of various sorts which he habitually fails to use. You must have a good time meeting people if you expect them to have a good time meeting you. Letting the other person feel that the idea is his or hers not only works in business and politics, it works in family life as well. Any fool can try to defend his or her mistakes, and most fools do, but it raises one above the herd and gives one a feeling of nobility and exultation to admit one's mistakes. Tell your child, your spouse, or your employee that he or she is stupid or dumb at a certain thing, has no gift for it, and is doing it all wrong, and you have destroyed almost every incentive to try to improve. All men have fears, but the brave put down their fears and go forward, sometimes to death, but always to victory was the motto of the king's guard in ancient Greece. Honest appreciation got results where criticism and ridicule failed. If you are satisfied with the result you are now getting, why change? If you are not satisfied, why not experiment? I have known people, he said, who succeeded because they had a rip-roaring good time conducting their business. Later, I saw those people change as the fun became work. The business had grown dull. Let me repeat that. You can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get other people interested in you. John D. Rockefeller said, "The ability to deal with people is as purchasable a commodity as sugar or coffee. And I will pay more for that ability than for any other under the sun." Sigmund Freud said that everything you and I do springs from two motives, the sex urge and the desire to be great. Exclusive attention to the person who is speaking to you is very important. Nothing else is so flattering as that. Shakespeare said, "Assume a virtue, if you have it not." When one person yells, the other should listen. When two people yell, there is no communication. Don't you know I am just as busy as you are, or, at least, I like to think I am. I have quit telling people they are wrong. And I find that it pays. King George V had a set of 6 maxims displayed on the walls of his study at Buckingham Palace. One of these maxims said, "Teach me neither to proffer nor receive cheap praise." It is the individual who is not interested in his fellow men who has the greatest difficulties in life and provides the greatest injury to others. In a nutshell, to be a leader. Principle 1. Begin with praise and honest appreciation. Principle 2. Call attention to people's mistakes indirectly. Principle 3. Talk about your own mistakes before criticizing the other person. Principle 4. Ask questions instead of giving direct orders. Principle 5. Let the other person save face. Principle 6. Praise the slightest improvement and praise every improvement. Be hearty in your approbation and lavish in your praise. Principle 7. Give the other person a fine reputation to live up to. Principle 8. Use encouragement. Make the fault seem easy to correct. Principle 9. Make the other person happy about doing the thing you suggest. Control your temper. Remember, you can measure the size of a person by what makes him or her angry. There's magic, positive magic, in such phrases as, "I may be wrong. I frequently am." Let's examine the facts. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you liked it.